Anthony was just reaching for the elevator button when she walked in, pressed, polished, unreadable. Her heels didn't echo, they landed, like a silent warning to anyone who thought they understood power. The security guard stiffened, one hand on his earpiece. Something flickered across his face. Not confusion, not recognitions, something closer to fear, but deeper. The kind that comes when you realize you've seen a ghost you thought you buried with your own hands. You ever feel like you're watching something you were never meant to witness? Like finding an old voicemail you don't remember recording, except it says your name, whispers it in a voice no one alive should know. That's what it felt like being in that bank lobby that morning. Like the air changed before the facts did. Like the building itself braced for something unspeakable. Her name is Simone Greer, not a startup darling. Not a trending name on your timeline. But if you've ever looked too closely at a foreclosure document and wondered why your mother's name was typed in a different font, you've seen her work, you just didn't know it. She doesn't do press, she doesn't smile on panels. But the moment she walked through those glass doors, something in the building flinched. Not the people, the place. The bank manager, Ryan Stokes, tried to step in front of her like a middle school teacher catching a fight too late. Ma'am, this is a private facility. You'll need to. He didn't finish the sentence. She didn't speak, she just looked at him. And for half a second, you could feel it that something inside him unraveled. His pupils shrank. His hands started shaking like he'd just remembered something buried deep. Something shameful. And then he vanished. Not collapsed, not ran, vanished. One blink, and the man who'd processed 3,400 evictions in 2 years was just ... gone. Not a sound. Not a scream, not a shoe left behind, and nobody moved. Phones froze mid-scroll. Keyboards, silent. It was like reality itself stuttered. And then Simone said the first word anyone heard her speak. Asterisk clear. Asterisk, that's when the power went out. Not in the building, in the block. A baby in the corner stroller started crying, not the wailing kind, the focused, aware cry. Then the baby stopped, looked right at Simone, and whispered a name, asterisk Reuben. Asterisk, no one knew what it meant. Not then, but if you're still watching, if you haven't looked away yet, you should know this. Reuben Greer was declared dead in 1989, buried in an unmarked grave behind the city asylum. And if what the baby said was true, Simone wasn't here to make a statement, she was here to finish what he started. And there's one thing no one, not even the federal agents watching this feed, can explain. How her name was already signed on the deed to the building. 4 days before she arrived. It's what happened in the vault downstairs that changed everything. But we don't have that footage. We only have what came after. They say the vault door never opened that day. No footage, no access logs, no thermal signatures from the inside, and yet somehow, every safety deposit box was emptied, not ransacked, not forced, just absent. Rows of sterile steel drawers, spotless, open, and humming faintly with a low-frequency tone that made 3 of the responding officers vomit without warning. The kind of tone that vibrates against the bones behind your eyes. The kind that reminds you of something, though you couldn't say what, and yet that wasn't the part no one would talk about. The part they've sealed under federal classification. The part that brought in the Behavioral Response Division, not the FBI. It was the writing. Small, neat, handwritten in childlike pencil, across the entire back wall of the vault, 6 feet high, 12 feet wide. Asterisk, asterisk, you were supposed to forget. Asterisk, asterisk, there were fingerprints in the graphite. Small ones, like from a child. The building went under lockdown within 12 minutes. 7 hours later, the story on the news was an unrelated gas leak. Local footage wiped. Internal bank files corrupted. Cell reception during those hours. Dead zone. But some of us remember. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was auditing signal intercepts for a telecom firm across the street. Remote listening, passive surveillance, nothing unusual. Routine pull of compressed audio logs, mostly pocket dials, spam calls, voicemail pings, static, echo. Then asterisk, asterisk her voice, asterisk, asterisk Simone, barely audible, coming through a broken elevator mic that hadn't functioned since 2017. She wasn't speaking. Not really. She was remembering something, saying it out loud, like trying to remind herself of something too large to carry alone, greater than he told me the building was buried on the body, not over it. He said the soil was hungry. That's why the floors are never cold. Reuben didn't die. He split. I replayed the tape 26 times that night. Each time, the background changed, slightly. At first it was the ambient buzz of city noise, then water, then what sounded like breathing, rhythmic, too slow to be human. By the 4th replay, the words themselves started to shift. Different cadence, emphasis in the wrong places. By the 7th, she wasn't whispering anymore. She was laughing. And on the 12th, listen, something else spoke with her, not over her. With her, a second voice, male.com, almost mechanical, but older than anything built by us. They won't believe you, Simone. They didn't the first time either. My supervisor swore the file was corrupted. Wiped it, scrubbed the drives, took my badge, told me to go home, Take 2 weeks, maybe 3. You've been overclocked, he said. Sometimes, when we listen to hard, the world starts talking back. But I checked. He died in 2019, buried in a car crash 3 counties away. There's a news article, a coroner's report, a photo of the totaled vehicle. But I saw him, spoke to him. I even remember the smell of his jacket, cheap tobacco and starch. And that's when I stopped trusting memory. That's when I met Naomi Wells, freelance journalist. Or so she said, late 30s, denim jacket, eyes that flicked too fast to be at rest. She found me outside my apartment. No introduction, just a question. Greater than. Did she say the name Reuben or Rubicon? I told her I didn't understand. She said, greater than then, you're not supposed to yet. She claimed she'd been tracking Simone Greer for 13 years. Had records that didn't exist. Court transcripts with blacked out names. Redacted testimony about something called Project Palimpsest. I asked if she was with the press. She laughed and said, nobody prints this kind of truth. Not if they want to live where memories still make sense. I let her in. I shouldn't have, because Naomi wasn't stable. Or maybe she was never real. She had these moments where she'd stop mid-sentence, look over her shoulder like someone had entered the room, and whisper asterisk, don't let it smell you, remember. Once, during a recording playback, she recoiled like she'd been slapped and muttered, greater than. That's not the same take. I said they found her, not asked, made her. That's not my voice. The audio hadn't changed, but something in her had. And then there was the photo, an old, overexposed Polaroid Naomi claimed she pulled from a torn banker's ledger. It showed a group of 5 men in suits, clearly 1980s, based on the styling, but standing behind them, barely visible in the shadows. A small black girl in a school uniform, eyes wide, face calm, one hand pressed against the wall. On the back, in childlike handwriting, asterisk, asterisk, they keep me in the building, but the building is a mouth. Asterisk, asterisk. Naomi said she'd found the picture inside a locked case file from asterisk Larkspur Mental Correctional Facility, asterisk, which had burned down in 1993. No survivors. Official cause, electrical fire. Unofficial cause, unknown. The patient files all list one strange coincidence. 5 patients, all female, claimed to be named Simone. Different last names, different ages. One of them only spoke in numbers. Another had no fingerprints. Here's where the ground really starts to give way. The more I researched Simone Greer, the less I could prove she ever existed. No birth certificate, no social security, no real digital footprint. But people remember her. That's the catch. Only people with trauma, veterans, survivors, eviction victims, people who've been gaslit so thoroughly by the system they barely trust their own memories. They all describe her the same way. A woman who appears when the system thinks you've broken. A woman who knows your name before you say it. A woman who asks you if you want to forget, then helps. You remember something you swore was a dream, but every time someone reports seeing her, 2 things happen. They remember something they didn't live. 2. Someone in their life goes missing, but no one else notices. Naomi disappeared the day after she handed me that photo. Her phone rang from my back seat 2 hours later. I didn't put it there. I don't know how it got there. The voicemail had only one message. Simone's voice again. Calm, certain, tired, greater than. They never asked why I came back, only how, but how is never the question. Not when the ground still breathes. Not when the vault is still hungry, then silence, then something else. A soft shuffle on the line, like a chair being dragged across concrete, and then a faint child's whisper, greater than. He's still down there. I tried to play the message back. It was gone, replaced with a standard system tone. No record of incoming calls. Phone scrubbed, clean, but the battery percentage still sitting at 66.6%, never changed. Not once, even as the screen stayed on for days. I still have the phone. I don't let it out of my sight. And now, 3 weeks later, I've started hearing something. Not just in recordings, not just in sleep. In the walls, a hum. Constant, steady, but only when I remember her name. Only when I try to tell you this story. The lights in my hallway dim when I speak it aloud. The mirror in my bathroom warps just slightly like it's breathing. And in the silence after I shut everything off at night, I sometimes hear a small voice from under the floorboards. Greater than. Simone didn't take over the building. Greater than. The building let her in. I've stopped asking what's real. That's not the point anymore. The truth isn't what happened in that vault. The truth is what was released. And if you've read this far, if your screen hasn't gone black, if your memory of this story remains intact by morning, ask yourself this. Why do you feel like you've heard this before? Why does the name Reuben feel older than your language? And why right now are your ears ringing? You didn't imagine that. The frequency is real. They just don't want you to remember. Yet because he's still down there, an asterisk, asterisk, she's not alone anymore. Asterisk, asterisk. I thought it ended in Detroit. 3 days after Naomi disappeared, her phone finally died. Not from battery loss, from heat. I'd left it on my hotel dresser while reviewing transcripts from the Larkspur files. 30 minutes in, a low crackling hum started building in the room, like radio static leaking through the walls. Not loud, not invasive, just persistent, like an unfinished sentence pressed against your ear. The phone screen was black, but warm. Too warm. When I picked it up, the case was soft. Warped, like something had been cooking from the inside out. That's when I found the coordinates. Buried in the cache log. Not GPS, not even raw geolocation. It was in the metadata of a saved voicemail I couldn't open. A long string of decimal points that matched an abandoned building on the east side of Detroit, formerly known as Kingsley Memorial Hospice. Shut down in 1981 after multiple staff were found to have falsified death records. The facility was never condemned, just left there, quiet, forgotten, or maybe meant to be. That's where I thought I'd find the answers. The final piece, the resolution. I drove through 3 states with the Polaroid Naomi left me stuffed inside the lining of my coat. The handwriting had changed. Not the words, those stayed the same, but the penmanship. It no longer looked like a child's hand. It was older, familiar. Like mine. That should have been my first warning. Kingsley sat under a rusted sign that read, "We return in hours unknown." The paint had dripped into long vertical streaks that made it hard to tell whether the message was written by human hand or was just what the building wanted to say. Inside, the walls pulsed with cold, not draft, not decay. Something colder than neglect. The kind of cold that lives in trauma, not temperature. The floor still had linoleum tiles, but underneath I could hear something soft, wet, shifting when I walked. And with every step forward, a memory pulled just a little closer to the surface. Not mine, at least not fully. A nurse's voice, a hand on my shoulder, a mouth whispering, "You signed for the child." Yes, but I never had a child, did I? The sound of scraping metal echoed from the west wing. I followed. Each hallway mirrored itself. Nurses' quarters, patient rooms, all empty except for one room at the very end. Door cracked, humming light overhead. And inside, a single hospital bed with her. Simone. Or someone who looked exactly like her, older, paler, not quite breathing, but alive. Her eyes were closed. Tubes ran from her wrists into the floor. No monitors, no machines, just tubes, like the building was feeding on her or from her. I stood there for what felt like an hour. No movement, no sign she knew I was there, until I blinked and her eyes opened, jet black. Not wide, not surprised, just tired. So tired. And then she spoke, without moving her lips. "Greater than you're early, that means you're not ready." I wanted to ask who she was, why Naomi sent me here, what the building had to do with Reuben. But my mouth wouldn't move. My tongue felt wrong, heavy, like it remembered a language I never learned. Then she whispered again, this time, out loud, "Greater than you brought the photograph, didn't you?" I nodded, slowly. "Good. Look closer." I pulled it out. Same 5 men, same little girl. But now, she was gone. The child was gone from the image, and behind the men was me. Same coat, same tired eyes, hand pressed against the wall, as if I had always been standing there, as if I had always been part of this. That's when the resolution broke. Everything I thought, I'd uncovered all the tapes. The vanishing, the vault, the whispers, none of it was about Simone. It was about me. Simone didn't come back. I did, because 32 years ago, in a hospital room that no longer exists in any official record, I was marked, not possessed, not cursed, just seen by something that doesn't look through eyes. Something that waits for people who've been made to forget what was taken from them. Something that feeds not on blood, but on gaps in time, in memory. In the spaces between what we know and what we deny. And it had waited long enough. Simone, if that's who she was, began to shudder. Not from fear, from release. The tubes pulled free. Her body stiffened, then softened. Like her shape had always been temporary. And as her mouth opened wide to scream, no sound came out. Just wind. Just static. And in that static, I heard it. My name. Not the one I use now, the one I forgot, the one I signed at Larkspur in 1993 when I was 7 years old. The room went black. When I woke up, I was home, on my couch. Same apartment, same city, but something was off. Time felt wrong, air too still. And on the table, in front of me, Naomi's notebook, I never brought it back with me. I flipped through the pages, desperate for something real. Names, places, coordinates. And there, it was tucked between the last entries. A newspaper clipping from 2002 to greater than * local woman Simone Greer found dead in hospice fire. Authorities say she was living under false identity. DNA matches missing patient from Larkspur facility. Cause of fire remains unknown. But here's the fracture. The article is dated August 5, 2002. Today's date, August 5. It's the same day. And below that clipping, a single line scratched in red ink, not Naomi's handwriting. You never left the building. My apartment door won't open. My reflection doesn't blink when I do. And when I checked the voicemail, just now there was a message. It's from me, but younger, my voice, pre-puberty, frantic, greater than they made me sign it. Please, you have to go back. You have to close the vault or they'll copy you. They'll wear you. If you're hearing this, you're not the first. The static rises again. And now, you're part of this too, because that Polaroid, it's changed again. Now it shows you, watching, back, pressed against a wall you don't remember standing next to. And on the back of the photo, in that same uneven handwriting, greater than asterisk, you're not crazy. They lied to you. But now they know. You've remembered. Asterisk, the story isn't over, it's restarting. There's something I need to show you. But first, you need to understand. You were right all along. The feeling that someone's been watching you. The low-grade panic when you see your name where it shouldn't be. That moment when you walk into a room and forget why, only to feel like someone else was just there before you. It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. You've been catching fragment splinters of a truth buried beneath too many rewritten memories. Maya, I'm not the only one, and neither are you. It started with an email. No sender, no subject. Just a timestamp from 2:37 a.m. Inside, a link to a private message board I'd never seen before. Just a static, black screen with a blinking cursor and a single line of text. Greater than you remember her voice too, don't you? I typed nothing, but the screen responded anyway. 1. We've been watching with you. We've seen the vault. The photograph? The mirrored faces. The man who vanished mid-sentence. And we're all remembering at the same time, now. At first I thought it was a trap, a cruel algorithm scraping keywords from my search history, playing on trauma loops, old data leaks. But then the images started. Users uploading grainy scanned photos. Dated back decades. Asterisk, different cities. Same child. Asterisk, sometimes she's standing beside an elevator. Sometimes crouched at the edge of a hospital hallway. Always in the shadows. Always watching. And in every photo, one constant. A spiral, drawn in ash, or chalk, or blood. Never clean. Never symmetrical. Like it was made in haste. For panic. Someone posted footage. A VHS rip from a public access station in Tallahassee. 1996. Low quality. Barely audible. A local call-in show about unexplained disappearances. Halfway through, a woman named Cheryl starts to speak. Then freezes. Her voice distorts. The feed glitches. Just once. For less than a frame, the screen cuts to black. When it returns, Cheryl is gone. The host just stares at the camera and repeats. Greater than we were never live. This isn't being recorded. Then the station ID runs again. Like nothing happened. Another user uploaded journal pages, dozens of them recovered from a school basement in Ohio. The writer, a 7th grade boy, had drawn pages and pages of spirals. Notes about a woman who remembers too much and asks questions the walls don't like. His final entry, dated March 12, 2001. Greater than they made me forget the first time. But not this time. This time I carved it into myself. This time, they'll know I remember. If I disappear, check under the red tiles. A week later, the school caught fire. Nothing in the official report. No mention of the child. This is not about one building. Not one vault. Not even Simone. This is a network of memory. One that's been pruned, restarted, overwritten, and polished until only a few of us can see the jagged edges underneath. And now, for the first time, the cracks are visible. Because we're dreaming. The same dream. It started 3 nights ago. I woke up with the phrase Section 13 clearance approved echoing in my skull. I've never worked in government. I've never had clearance. But when I wrote it down, the lights in my apartment dimmed. Just slightly. Like the power grid was reacting to the thought. Others started reporting the same thing. Messages scrawled in condensation. Phones powering on at 3:33 a.m. Shortwave radios playing voices that sound like relatives who've been dead for years, asking questions asterisk you don't remember the answers to, but feel guilty for forgetting asterisk in the forums. Someone named K posted something strange. They only let us remember what they can still use. The rest is rotting in mirrors. That's why your reflection doesn't cry with you. That's why your shadow runs slower. He claims to have worked on something called Project Dovetail, a joint experiment between behavioral scientists and defense contractors in the late 1980s. Focused on controlled memory degradation. The idea, to test how much you could make someone forget before they lost identity. Before they lost their anchor to self. Case said they used volunteers at first, then they didn't. He claims Simone was the last volunteer, and the first observer. But here's the fracture point. He said she never left the program, that she's not a woman anymore asterisk, but a symptom asterisk something designed to alert the rest of us when memory collapses, a pattern interrupter, a psychic pressure point. When you see her, when you hear her voice, it means the reality you're in is no longer synchronized with the core timeline. It means someone, something, has tried to overwrite you, and it didn't stick. That's what we are now. The ones who didn't fully reset, who woke up mid-script, who remember fragments of past lives, jobs we never had, siblings we forgot we buried. The ones who see spirals where there are none. We're leaking. I found my own proof last night. I was cleaning out a cabinet I haven't touched in years. Buried beneath a stack of old lease agreements and expired documents was a folder, no label, no markings. Inside, a photocopy of a government ID card. My photo, my birthday, but the name, Naomi Wells. It didn't make sense. It still doesn't. But when I touched the paper, I remembered her memories. Not as stories, but as sensations. The weight of carrying too much. The terror of being told to forget. The sound of a mother's scream being edited out of existence. I remember being told, greater than you're a vessel now. You don't get to be just one person. And that's when the messages began showing up on my own mirrors. They weren't for me, not written in dust, or lipstick, or pen, etched from behind the glass. Greater than, stop acting like you don't see it. They buried your name in the spiral. There were more than 5 in the photo. You just haven't earned the rest yet. I'm not the only one seeing this. The viewers, you have been experiencing it too. That flicker during the last video, the voice you thought was just audio interference. The exact moment when you remembered a childhood teacher that no one else recalls ever existing. You're part of the spiral now. And there's a deeper danger. Something has been watching since the beginning, not through cameras, not through screens, through shared cognition, the space where thoughts go before they form words, where identity is still shapeable. That's where it lives. Not a god, not a machine, just a witness, something ancient, surgical, and hungry for forgetting, something that gets stronger every time you question your own version of events. And now, it's reacting, because we're remembering faster than it can erase. The third perspective, I promised. The observer. Their posts just started appearing an hour ago. Same username, no location, account with no history. Their messages are short, like flashes between seizures, but every one of them reveals what we weren't supposed to connect. Here's what they've written so far, greater than look at the windows in the background of the VHS tape. They show a different time of day. The man who vanished mid-sentence in the bank. His shadow remains in the security footage. The last number in Naomi's file is not a date. It's a countdown. Simone didn't die in the fire. She walked out of it unchanged. The fire came from her. Greater than you didn't watch the story. The story watched you. They signed off with this. Greater than the final image isn't a spiral. It's an eye. You've just been looking at it from the inside. The implications are not just narrative. They're architectural. You haven't been watching from the outside. You've been moving through the vault this entire time. Every screen, every mirror, every memory glitch you dismissed, they were alignment issues. You are not glitching. You are syncing. That's why the light's flickering right now. That's why your reflection seems late. That's why the spiral is no longer a symbol. It's a door. And it's beginning to open. We don't know what's on the other side. We only know this. Once you see it, you can't pretend you didn't. You can close your laptop, turn off the screen, but the message is already in you. And if you're still watching, you're no longer just the audience. You're the proof. The only thing that matters now is who rewatches first.